Yeah.
Every year, there are those handful of teams that surprise the nation by becoming contenders, not just in their conference, but also on the national stage. There are tons of those teams going into 2022, but today we're going to focus on 4 teams that are legitimate college football playoff sleeper teams. Teams that people maybe aren't talking nearly enough about, but could crash the playoff party come December. Before we dive into those 4 teams, guys, please continue to like, comment, and subscribe here at the Gridiron Expert. We want you to become a part of our team. We want you to become a part of what we're growing here at the channel. So if you love college football, if you love this type of content, we want you to be here with us, discussing with us down in the comments, and making sure that you don't miss out on any of the content we have for you going forward. So let's jump into the college football playoff sleepers, guys. We're going to start with the first one, not in any specific order, but we're going to start with the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas, guys, this team is legit. A team that just a few years ago found themselves in the cellar of not just the SEC, but maybe even the entire country, is now potentially a playoff dark horse. Sam Pittman has done a phenomenal job with this team, making them go 9-4 in 2021. Losses to Alabama, losses to Georgia, a 1-point loss to Ole Miss. Arkansas looked very, very solid week in and week out in 2021, and they returned tons on offense this year, including their star quarterback, KJ Jefferson, who posted the 3rd highest QBR in the SEC, only behind Bryce Young and Stetson Bennett, the 2 national championship playing quarterbacks. They're returning Rocket Sanders at running back to lead a loaded running back core. Jaden Hazelwood, the 5-star transfer from Oklahoma, comes in to lead the wide receiver core, and the offensive line is loaded. The defense, Sam Pittman went out there and added a lot of help to the transfer portal, bringing in guys like Latavius Brinney from Georgia, Dwight McGlothern from LSU, Drew Sanders at linebacker from Alabama, paired now with Bumper Poole, one of the leading tacklers in the entire SEC last year. Arkansas has a tough but relatively favorable schedule. They host Alabama in Fayetteville. They only fell to the Crimson Tide by 7 last year in Tuscaloosa. They host Ole Miss. They host LSU. And yes, the schedule is tough. They have a road game at BYU, a road game at Mississippi State. They open against Cincinnati. If Arkansas can start the year 4-0, and their first 4 games are against Cincinnati, South Carolina, Missouri State, and Texas A&M, all of those either at home or at a neutral site, if they're 4-0 entering that game against Alabama on October 1st in Fayetteville, that game could determine who wins the SEC West. A top 10 matchup in Fayetteville at the beginning of October. Arkansas nearly took down the Tide last year. If they do it this year, they should be taken seriously as playoff contenders. Moving to the ACC, how about NC State? The job that Dave Doeren has done with the Wolfpack is unbelievable. And this team now, going into 2022, is absolutely loaded. Absolutely loaded, and I don't think people are talking about the Wolfpack enough, or at least maybe not taking them seriously. Let's see who they return. They return their star quarterback in Devin Leary, who returns after throwing for 35 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, and completed 65.7% of his passes. 18 starters as a whole return for the Wolfpack, including 70% of their production on defense. 70% of the production is back on defense after they held opponents to 29% conversion rate on 3rd down, the best mark in the ACC, the 5th best mark in the entire country. So this team is loaded with talent. They've got a veteran coach in Doeren, a veteran quarterback in Devin Leary, and when you look at the schedule, guys, it's extremely manageable. But if you want to take NC State seriously as a playoff contender and a team that can maybe break through and win the ACC, they have to get past Clemson. Arkansas has to get past Alabama, the king of the SEC. NC State has to get past Clemson, the king of the ACC. The Wolfpack will face the Tigers on the road on October 1st, just like the Razorbacks will be taking on Alabama on October 1st. And like Arkansas, there's a good chance that NC State could be 4-0 going into the October 1st game. If they upset Clemson on the road, NC State will control their own destiny in the ACC Atlantic. We've talked time and time again about how Clemson, NC State, and Wake Forest are the top 3 teams in that division. How they all fare against each other will determine who wins the Atlantic. If NC State gets that win over Clemson, just like they did last year, they will be the front runners in the Atlantic, and they will be taken seriously as a playoff contender. Down to the Big 12, Baylor. Many people will say, how are they a sleeper team? They nearly made the playoff last year. They did, and yet people still aren't talking about them enough. not just in the Big 12, but on the national stage. Let's keep in mind that Baylor went 12-2 last year under Dave Aranda. 12-2, won the Big 12, beat 5 ranked teams, and won their first New Year's Day bowl game since 1957 by taking down Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. If they don't lose to TCU by 2 points, Baylor is in the college football playoff. And yet here we are, no one talking nearly enough about them. Dave Aranda recently came out and announced that Blake Shapen will be the quarterback in 2022 instead of Gary Bohannon, who was a starter for the majority of the year before going down with an injury. So Shapen is the quarterback, solid quarterback, played well when he was there, helped lead the Bears to that Big 12 title. And they return a loaded offensive line and a pretty solid wide receiver core. The biggest key is going to be replacing their top 2 rushers. And the biggest key is going to be replacing a lot of talent on defense after losing their leading tackler in Terrell Bernard and losing the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in Dalen Petrie. If Dave Aranda can fix up this defense, and has a brilliant defensive mind, we believe that he can, Baylor will once again find themselves in the hunt for a Big 12 title and possibly a college football playoff spot if they can navigate a tough schedule that includes road games at BYU, Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Texas. Baylor can navigate that, maybe come through all of those with just one loss. They will be in the hunt for a playoff spot come December. And then finally, the 4th team that we're talking about today, the Utah Utes. Utah, a playoff contender. Many will question why. Many, if you've watched our videos, will say, how are they a sleeper? Considering in our early top 25, we have the Utes ranked 4th in the country. But very similar to all of these teams that we've talked about today, no one is talking nearly enough about Utah. Everybody wants to talk about Oregon. Everybody wants to talk about USC and Lincoln Riley. They are forgetting the fact that Utah won the Pac-12 last year in dominating fashion and nearly won the Rose Bowl over Ohio State. When you look at the returning talent, Kyle Whittingham returns a veteran quarterback in Cam Rising, who was phenomenal last year, not just through the air, but also on the ground. They return their star running back in Tavion Thomas. They return 14 starters as a whole, and let's keep in mind that Utah's defenses are typically very, very solid under Kyle Whittingham. The key for Utah going into 2022 is winning their road games. Last year, the Utes, I believe, 10-4, went 10-4 on the year, and they had road losses at BYU, San Diego State, and Oregon State. If Utah wins all 3 of those, they are in the college football playoff as a one-loss team. No doubt about it. The road losses were their Achilles heel. And now, in 2022, they have tougher road games at Florida, Arizona State, UCLA, Washington State, and Oregon. So a very tough road slate for Utah, where if they slip up just twice in that span, they are out of playoff discussion, especially considering how relatively weak the Pac-12 is. But Utah does get to host arguably the toughest test on their schedule in USC, at least the toughest test in the Pac-12 South. They host USC on October 15th. That game could determine who wins the division. And if Utah is undefeated after that game, or even just a one-loss team after that USC game, they will be in the hunt for the playoff by the time December rolls around. So there you have it, guys. 4 college football playoff sleeper teams. People are always talking about Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, guys like that. They're going to talk about the kings of the conferences, especially within the Power 5. But these 4 teams have a chance to go in there and not just crash the party within their individual conferences, but crash the playoff party in late November and December. And if these teams can win those key games, if they can get over those Achilles heels that we talked about, we will be talking about them all year long. They will be in the hunt all year long. And while you might not be hearing about these teams right now in the offseason, by mid-October, these teams live up to the hype. We'll be talking about them not just as a Cinderella story, but as a legitimate playoff contender. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. Again, we want you to become a part of what we're building here at the channel. We want you to become a part of the GE Nation, so do not miss out on any of the content we have going forward. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.